Welcome to the Kolbecast, episode 273. Thank you for joining us. As we prepare for the upcoming school year, it may be too late to attend an in-person homeschooling conference, so we've put together the Kolbecast Conference for you to attend. We've put together a selection of our podcasts in the form of a 3-day conference that you can listen to on your own schedule and be inspired and to get great information about Kolbe Academy and its community. Bonnie and I chat today about the collection and give you some guidance on how to enjoy this event. Check the show notes for a link to the flyers with the schedules and links to all of our great speakers. We hope that you'll enjoy the show and the Kolbecast Conference.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Kolbe homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Kolbe Academy.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It's going very well. I think I start every time you ask me that, I always say that everything's going very well. So I guess that's good.
Yes, it is.
But things are going well today.
Good. Here too. It's been
Good.
kind of I've been able to catch up a little bit. Probably shouldn't say that because there's a lot left that's not caught up, but I'm chipping away at it. So we'll just persevere, I think. At the time of this recording, we're celebrating a milestone in Kolbecast history. It's been about 5 years since the relaunch of the Kolbecast. We have more than 270 episodes out now. So we're taking a moment to enjoy that fun fact. And it's been a real joy and privilege and blessing to be able to work on this with you, Stephen. If folks have been to any conferences lately, they might have observed some podcasters set up somewhere in the array of exhibits and vendors. That's us today. Okay, Stephen, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Maybe someday we'll turn up in person at a conference and record from there. That'd be fun. So folks who are already on Kolbe's email list are already in the know about this. But for those who aren't, I'm happy to announce that we've compiled a bevy of Kolbecast episodes spanning pretty much the entire run of the Kolbecast since its relaunch 5 years ago, as I mentioned. We've organized the episodes into a 3-day convention of sorts with a theme for each day, keynote and breakout session speakers, and places to find out more about Kolbe and various relevant vendors. So, Stephen, we have done a couple of what we called conventions in the past, dropping 1 episode per day for a week.
Those were a lot of work.
They were a lot of work. There are episodes 47 through 50 and 109 through 113. This conference doesn't work like that. Take us through the defining aspects of this conference, starting with the genesis of the idea itself.
Now I'll have to remember the exact genesis. I know it came from my wife. I have to give her credit for the idea, but I think it was when this year I was blessed to be able to go up to the Minnesota Catholic homeschooling home education conference in St. Paul, Minnesota. And it had been years since I had been to a homeschooling conference. There aren't nearly as many as there used to be back in the day, where all of the book vendors would come and you'd go and get the speakers and meet all the homeschooling families. And then get to go and buy all your books for the year from the big book vendors. And they don't tend to be like that these days either. But one of the things I was noticing when I was at this conference, people who have been on our Kolbecast were actually some of the main speakers. And I thought, well, this was Ken and Carrie Davison of the Holy Heroes. They each spoke as one of kind of the main keynote addresses at this conference. And, I was both thinking, like, we have so many really good conversations with amazing guests in here. We've just been really blessed to have wonderful people stop by and give us their experiences and bits of wisdom. And I thought, well, if we could put together a really good lineup with those, as you mentioned, with 270 plus episodes now, as I try to go back and find an episode, it's like load more episodes. And especially if somebody is new to the Kolbecast, so welcome if you're new to the Kolbecast, but it's like, where do you start after you maybe listen to the recent episode, you saw it on social media and it piqued your interest, but how do you find other things that are like what you're interested in? Because at least we do this intentionally, Bonnie, I think. We have a really wide variety of topics and things that we talk about. So,
yeah.
So Yeah, I think it was my wife then who put kind of like, well, don't record all new. Take some of these, collect some episodes, put them together. And I know fortunately we have her and her wonderful team with Erica and Carol and all of the people over there that are, and Stasha, one of her team members, was at the conference in Minnesota with me, which was fantastic. But they volunteered to help us get this together by putting these flyers together that are on our website now and have been people have been being emailed about them over in the recent past. But yeah, to put it together like you'd see at a homeschooling conference, like you mentioned. So each day going in and having a keynote speaker, and then which we just pick as some of our most popular episodes usually, or things that people should really hear about. And then we've tried to kind of break into breakout sessions so you can get as much as we could, I think, some some speakers that are speaking about similar sorts of things, but slightly different. But then wanted to also give the listeners a chance to get some of those episodes where they're either meeting other Kolbe parents or meeting Kolbe alumni. On our second day, we have meeting Kolbe alumni who are priests, which is a couple of episodes. And then, of course, since it's a convention, we have to have a Kolbe table, which again is what I did at the Minnesota conference, where you can go and hear about what Kolbe has to offer and from either why we do things the way we do it or what books we have or our curriculum, what's the thought behind that, or different services we offer. So each day is kind of composed of the elements: morning keynote speaker, morning breakout sessions, meet the Kolbe community at the break time, which would be like your lunch, I think. And then you have your afternoon breakout sessions, and then each day's followed up with a afternoon keynote speaker. And then we'll have at the Kolbe table, here's what people are talking about today. So that's the structure that we've settled on for this.
I think it's great. And I'm grateful to Maggie, who is definitely one of our great good friends here on the Kolbecast. She's been on several episodes. Thanks so much, Maggie, curriculum director for Kolbe, for that idea and for helping us so much see it through from idea to completion. She and her team, all great ladies. They've all been on the Kolbecast at one time or another too. So it's fun to get to introduce them and to thank them for the work that they have put into this. And I can imagine, so folks who are just now hearing about this, who haven't been receiving the emails about it, um, might be thinking, that's a cool idea, and it is a cool idea to have these things organized, especially with more than 270 episodes. Like, where do you even start with that? And yes, referring back to your point about how the wide variety of topics we cover intentionally, because they all somehow relate to our Kolbe experience, our day-to-day homeschool life, whatever. But that touches a lot, every aspect of life, and so we try to speak to that in our various episodes. It does make it challenging to find more like them, even though we work hard when we're crafting our show notes to include relevant Kolbecast episodes, but there are only so many that we include each time. And with our ever-growing list, it's nice to have a new tool now. Just one way I like to look at this particular conference is a new tool to organize in a new way our vast Kolbecast library and find what is useful to people. One of the neat things about it being the format that it is folks can listen to what is interesting, what's relevant right now or whenever they can. I can't imagine anyone's starting from the beginning and listening all the way through the whole day. That's nifty. That's fantastic. If that works for somebody, wonderful. Also, there are lots of other ways to get through the convention on a different timetable. So it's really flexible in that way. And I think it's one of the neat things about it.
I really appreciate the work going in. So I think the way it will appear to them is that you can go onto our website. If you got the emails, you can do that. But if otherwise, you can look at our blogs or get on our website. And again, Carol has been working or will have put together at this point when this is released, these actual like PDF documents, which explaining who the speakers are and a little bit of their background. So you can like save that PDF and just like when you're doing dishes or decide you're waiting for the kids at swimming, as I do sometimes, you can just use that as a reference to go back and hit the link and, listen to it in whatever. It's got all the episodes listed and things like that. So you can, but To me, that I like that because when an email comes out, or even when it's a social media post, it's like sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, and then it disappears into the archive box or into the
Right.
inbox or into the spam folder or whatever, and then it's gone, and I will forget about it. But this way, if I can just leave them on my desktop or save them in my downloads folder, as I tend to do with most things, and then I can just click whenever I have the time.
So we end up with this lovely brochure for the conference. We don't have a swag bag to stick it in, but that's all right. We the most important part is this beautiful collection of brochures that she's making for us to describe the various episodes that we have and how to find out more and go take next steps from there too. So it's really quite a resource.
Obviously, all these are all of our normal podcasts. So if you've listened to any of them, you know that this is just kind of a conversation we try to ask, like questions that a homeschooling family or a Colby family in particular would have of our guests. And so they get to hear a lot of us too, Bonnie, but that's okay.
There is that, yes.
That's okay. Yeah. So, but it just is again when we're trying to put, we had way too many, even though we have a 3 day conference here, which is is a lot. That's a long conference schedule as well. But it was hard to even for me to pick like episodes like, oh, I really want to put this one in, but it's like you can't I can't put all 270 on the
Right.
the
Yeah,
conference. So,
fortunately, yes.
yeah. Yeah. But some of those speakers, though, still, I was just astounded going through how, again, how fortunate we are to have these people who would at any conference would be the keynote speaker if they showed up. So we're able to take all of those and put them in there.
We have been richly blessed by the folks who've come to visit with us, folks whose names are recognizable to many, and folks who aren't recognizable probably to their immediate family and circle in their local areas. But all of them have been so generous in the time they have spent with us. So it's fun to go through the library and reminisce about the various episodes, find ones that stand out, both that are at the top of our downloads statistics and some that aren't so much. It's nice to get to feature some of those and
Yeah.
when I get all in my head about, oh, I would love to include this one, but can't, or whatever that whole selection process, I take some consolation from the list in the show notes for each of those episodes, having more episodes to go on from there. So it's like we
Yes.
have this here. It's like a good starting point. So there's so many ways to look at what this is. It could be this conference experience. It could be a starting point for a family new to homeschooling or new to Colby, kind of just jumping off point in that respect. So you have managed to create quite a thing here, Stephen. It's really neat how it's come together.
Yeah. I think that just as a spoiler, if depending on how this goes with those beloved episodes that we weren't able to include, we can always in the future have another mini conference or something more targeted. And as part of this episode too, as our listeners, this is so you're seeing we're putting together this conference, but it's kind of nice because they can email us or work or communicate with us and say, these are the speakers or these are the topics I'd really like to hear about. And then we can go out and try to get those on for a future, thing too. So hopefully it motivates people to say, yeah, but I'd like to hear from so and so, or I'd like to hear this, and then we can try to get them on for them.
We would be so delighted to have that input from our listeners for folks to write in. The address is podcast@kolbe.org, KOLBE.org. So send us a note and make your suggestions, ask your questions, what would be helpful to hear. I know it has really gotten the wheels turning where we landed on our selections for this particular time, but there's so many that like, oh, next time let's do this or that, but also leaving the door wide open for people to tell us what they would be interested in hearing, what would be helpful to them. We very much are interested, and that's the whole reason we're doing this is to help each
Right.
other out. Yep.
It is a challenge. I think, like we've talked about this behind the scenes, Bonnie, but it gets to be a bit of a challenge going through 270 episodes. And it's like, oh, but we just talked to this person about this topic. So, but okay, but that was 4 years ago. So chances are we could have that conversation again, and that's okay. But I lose track of, and then I'm always assuming that our listeners joining us maybe for the first time have just like when I say Maggie. they know my wife is Maggie and they're going to understand the context of everything I say. And obviously, that's not always the case.
You've talked a bit about how this is structured and sort of the organization of this conference. Each day has a theme. Let's go day by day and kind of hit the highlights of what folks are going to hear if they approach it that way. What are the themes and what can folks look forward to?
So, yeah, we've got the 3 different days, and I'm trying to organize them with sort of a general theme. So, there's some that I might be stretches just for to be if I'm being completely honest, but I just wanted it kind of fit and I wanted it in there. So I just put it. But so each day we've kind of given a name. And so the first day is Catholic and classical homeschooling in today's world, which seems like a very Colby sort of theme here. But so it allowed us to kind of pick some big names in homeschooling and big names in classical or education. So on our first day with this theme, we start out with, anybody who's heard Monsignor James Shea, president at the University of Mary. He's phenomenal, or maybe read his book that Mary worked on, and he kind of did that. But so we start out with him as our morning keynote speaker, just talking again about the change of the ages, and then we can get kind of more into the homeschooling side of things. I think a little bit after that, following in our breakout sessions with, again, I mentioned Ken and Carrie Davison from the Holy Heroes people putting out all that great stuff, and they're Colby parents. Then we have Dr. Greg Popcak, who many people have heard his radio show or seen him on EWTN, or they've got the Catholic counselors. They've got their new website, great stuff there. And Joseph Pierce, Revealed Through Story is our title of that one. But again, just some good context there
Yeah,
with
big picture.
homeschooling. And so since we've got this kind of broad view of schooling and things, we kind of jump right in at the break with meeting a couple of Colby parents, how they've been doing it, or Colby alumni parents too, with the Mahaliks who have been on a couple of times. But then afterward, we keep up with the Popchaks. Keeping up with the Popchaks, is that a thing? With Lisa coming in, but then we also have the Bush School of Business head, Dr. Andrew Abella, coming in to talk about virtues, and he has a book on that, the Super Habits, and then we throw in a little bit of homeschooling, back to homeschooling to media with Peter Atkinson, who's with the Mary Beggars, but he had been homeschooled, so talks about his journey from homeschooling to the Mary Beggars, which is great. Then we wrap up with Newman Guide president Patrick Riley talking about Catholic education, and then swing over to the Colby table to talk to Jean Ann and Colleen, who are in admissions and customer service here at Colby, and talk to a couple of our academic advisors and Rylan and Kristen. And then we talk about distinctions between classical education, liberal arts, and liberal education. The conversation we had, Bonnie, that kind of seeks to clarify what we mean when we say those various terms. But that's our first day.
It's a great one.
All of those are winners in my mind. So any way they want to jump in. But
Yep. I really like how you've drawn the connections among the ones that you've chosen for this day, and it's been a collaborative effort choosing what the episodes are. I very much appreciate your vision for this. Well, what about day 2 then?
this one we've titled He Calls Us Each by Name. And so there's a little bit of kind of working with individual learning styles, or even some mental health things, I think, in some of the early things, but also then incorporating or living our life of faith and our call to holiness throughout this homeschooling journey that we have. And of course, we're all interested in that aspect of how do we serve our Lord better? How do we do these things? So I just thought this would be a good time to focus on these different things. So yeah, with this one, we're going to start with one of my, well, all of these are one of my, I can't keep saying one of my favorites. They're all one of my favorites. But
There's room for them
Dr.
all.
Evan Majors, yeah, he's been on a couple of times and just, and he's all over. I keep running into him in different podcasts, and he's a psychiatrist he's got his optimal work. He does cognitive behavioral therapy. He's this, teaches a class at Harvard, and just a great Catholic man. But he leads out on as the keynote speaker on day two. And then I think we kind of move into a little bit of how do we kind of treat each child individually and deal with the differences and the challenges they have. So we have, again, Johanna Sigrin with Interior Kingdom, who works on like self-regulation, and Art and Laraine Bennett. See, I keep wanting to say they're my favorites, but with all of these, but with we've done a couple podcasts with them as well, but this one is with the temperaments that they're kind of best known for, as far as their book on the temperaments and talking about that. So how to kind of use knowledge of that in dealing with your children, especially. And the other breakout session is Caitlin Russ, who was an occupational therapist and just had, I thought, a lot of really great information about, how do children deal with these, or how does anybody deal with these different things to be aware of, and then like what an occupational therapist does and how they might be able to help somebody who's really struggling with something.
All of this is speaking to the whole person, right? That we are homeschooling with this rich curriculum, which is going to have a host of benefits academically, intellectually, theologically for our children and ourselves, since we are close to it in one way, to varying degrees, depending on how folks are making use of the Kolbe materials. Still, it so much of the time, I think anyone who homeschools for any length of time quickly realizes that so much of this day-to-day existence is about forming people, whole people. There's so many aspects of that that aren't addressed in the academic work. This is such important work. I'm glad we devote the time that we do to it, and really grateful for the folks who've come to talk to us about all these various topics.
Yeah, as a school, we're a Kolbe Academy, we're a school, obviously, so we have to be focused on education. That's kind of our thing that we do, but especially distance education, the parents are dealing with a lot of the things that sometimes a teacher in a classroom would be dealing with. But, I keep thinking about, well, education, all of these different things. Why are we learning? Well, both, to perfect, just like why would you exercise? To perfect to be healthy, perfect your body, and you want to perfect your mind. But yeah, all of these things, knowing that we always come back to that this is so that we can know, love, and serve God. And so these things I find so helpful, because yes, we can go through all of the academic stuff, the intellectual stuff, but to better understand how to handle when your 3-year-old is just having a meltdown. And it's again knowledge, because we're still giving them that in this way, but to know, like, oh, here's what's going on in the brain, and here's why they're not able to actually be reasonable at this point, because that part of the brain is turned off. They're in a different, and to be able to then say, oh, okay, so my response now, well, I can aim for a better response with my
Yeah.
child. I can be a more loving parent, possibly, if I can understand, okay, this is what's going on, so I need to do this first before we worry about correction and all of these things that come about. So that's focusing on Johanna Sigrin's thing partially, but there's elements of that in all of these that just kind of, yeah, I think.
Yeah, and it is not a very long stretch at all to apply what might initially be aimed at children of whatever age. We can apply that to ourselves as well to improve ourselves, which can only serve to help everybody if we are
Yes.
open to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the morning, right?
Yes, that's the morning. So then we're going to switch. Well, we're going to take a break and meet some of the Kolbe alumni priests at the break time. So we've got a couple of podcasts with, well, we have Father Ambrose and Father Ohotnicki, who was Deacon Ohotnicki when he was on that podcast, but now it's Father Ohotnicki, and then Father Nathan Mudd, who's up at Our Lady of Champion. So we've got a couple of priests to meet, and we can talk about what they're doing and their Kolbe experience, and Colby actually has a fair number for the number of students we have of people who even go directly into the religious life. So I'm very happy about that. That's a
Yes.
very good thing. Right.
Tremendous blessing. Yep.
And
Yep.
one of the things we haven't had since I've been on the podcast, so for our listeners out there, we haven't had a sisters come in talk to us that are alumni. So if people happen, I mean, I'll probably be trying to track them down and follow up anyway. But if you happen to know one, send them our way. We want to get some sisters on the podcast too.
We have one episode with sisters, but it's way early
That's
though.
before
It's way
me.
early. It's before Steven's time.
I okay, so I've never gotten to talk to them.
Steven's been here most of the time, so that's how early the episode is. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, Bonnie.
No,
This
no,
was
no. You're
yeah,
good.
I didn't
They're
get to.
You didn't get to visit with them. They are lovely, lovely, lovely sisters. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But that has
Well,
been quite a while. And yeah, we would love to visit with more religious sisters. Yes.
so yeah, we turn to more directly that sort of living our life of faith in the afternoon with some episodes with Father Wayne Sattler, who has a book, Spiritual Friendship, or that's about spiritual friendship, being having a relationship with God, and then I can see again. I'm going to say, and I love, yes, I love all of them. Sherry Waddell, who with the Called and Gifted and the Catherine of Siena Institute, we've got her coming in, and then one of our theology teachers, Dan Angel, and his brother Bobby come in to talk about a variety of things, just kind of living their life of faith and incorporating different aspects in. So yeah, I think hopefully an encouraging and thoughtful sort of little bit of a retreat on the afternoon of the second day. But
Very nice. Yep. That was a fun one with the brothers. They each have so much to share. Uh, and I find it very interesting them being brothers because my boys are now young adults and I have, great hopes for them in their brother relationship going forward as adults now. So it's neat to get the brothers on the podcast to
yeah,
hear them.
definitely.
Yeah.
We wrap up the day, the second day, with uh, Kendra Tierney Norton now. So again, a bit of a change from then. She was just Kendra Tierney when we visited with her, but she's pretty well known for many of our families. But talking about liturgical living and kind of living out the different seasons of the church in your home with your family, and so again, just a lovely conversation with her.
Yeah, she has long written a blog called Catholic All Year, and it has a few episodes on formed.org and has, continued to write and speak. She's co-hosted some conferences. And so, yes, we are happy for her. Congratulations, Kendra.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and they're at the Colby table today is more of a kind of a look at some of our curriculum and how we implement that. So we have a podcast about preschool and what that looks like here at both our books and kind of whether doing it on your own or doing it along with Colby with some help. And then we have again, this is my wife Maggie, a lot of this, and Nicole O'Connor, our principal, who they take us through the different grade levels and kind of the what we're working on and how we're implementing our classical education all the way from kindergarten after preschool through 12th grade. So a couple episodes there to kind of say, hey, here's how we do it at Colby.
Those are super helpful. Just have a we like that big picture long view. It's also helpful to know, like, what are we doing right now?
Yes,
And
yes.
where are we going right after this? Yeah. Okay.
That takes us on to day 3, though.
Okay.
And this one was the hardest one for me to kind of name because I had kind of positioned some things and I thought, well, maybe I can move them around. But ultimately, my title for it was Living Life Fully for the third day. So just a kind of again, a couple of different varieties of things, but kind of, again, from a different aspects of things, but really either embracing our heritage, our educational heritage, or our the Catholic learnings that we've had, or well, we have people who just talk about living life well in as well. So we start out this day with Anthony Esolen. Um, yeah, so a bit about classical education and just approaching things in the world today, and just yeah, he's so much fun that
He
it's
is,
a
and that's a vintage episode again. Such a joy to get to visit with him. He has since been writing a Substack called Word and Song, which I enjoy so much. It's really neat.
hmm,
So I'll have to give that a plug. Yeah,
yeah.
it was great having him.
Yeah, this was another one that was before my time, but this one I recently went back and re-listened to this one. So that was
One of my standout memories from that, my sister Hope was with us at that time working on the podcast, and she's a Colby alumna. And so she took great joy in the naming of that episode, A Pessimist with Hope, because he does have
oh
that,
yes.
and that's her name.
Yeah, so I guess our morning is some intellectual conversation, some very brilliant men here. Mike Aquilina, who's an author, and just a I remember recording that and seeing all of his like stacks of books behind him. It would just looked like he was in a library. It was, but
He was great.
great conversation with him and Dr. George Harn, who at that point was at University of St. Thomas in Houston, but now he is the president of Christendom. So we've got him joining us, and then our Colby chairman of the board of advisors and president of Ignatius Press, Mark Brumley, coming in to talk about the word as one of the focuses of that. So
I remember the intro for that episode. For some reason, I wrote out this long list of Ignatius Press books that Colby uses, and I just rattled them off. You guys are so patient with me. Like, she's still going reading all these books.
and this one, and this one,
Yep.
and this one. That's funny. So that's our morning with the breakout sessions. But today we allow people to kind of step in and talk to some students and alumni of Colby Academy to just kind of see what they're up to and what they're the sort of students that Colby sees and the sort of students that Colby produces and what they're doing afterwards. So I think it's kind of fun to be able to chat with the students or listen to the students chat. Yeah.
Yep. They're great.
Yeah. In the afternoon breakout sessions, we're jumping, like I said, back into kind of various aspects of things. But Dr. John Kudabak, who's does all of the life craft, he's a homesteader, professor at Christendom, um, just great stuff about living family life, Catholic life. And Dr. Andrew Mullally, who, again, I have Fort Wayne, Indiana, where he's from, and some other guests that we've had amazing doctors there, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I really want to go see what's going on in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But yeah, he talks about both being homeschooled and different things with teaching science in homeschooling and all of those things. And then we have Mrs. B, and I'm not going to even try to say her name. So it's Rebecca C, but she goes by Mrs. B, and she has a tea room and she does etiquette and things with kids and just a joyful person that gives you some ideas for smiling at people or having good manners and things that I remember that's valuable to hear. So,
Oh yeah, and that one particularly addresses that word socialization that likes to get kind of buzzword.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to visit her tea room if I'm ever in her area. I'm headed that way.
Yeah, I keep getting emails from her with seeing these lovely events that it's like, oh, there's a snow day. We're going to have a tea party here at the tea room, and it looks like a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wrap up this day with Dr. Peter Kraft, who most people are familiar with, but again, just he had a couple of books come out, both his kind of conversion story um, and a book on joy. But just he's got so many interesting things to share. So wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to hear that one too.
Yep.
And then at the Colby table, we're over seeing some of the things that Colby produces. So Colby has an astronomy course that we've produced, and they have an astronomy class. So we discussed that, and we discussed the art book, the art history book that we have, and that class, and how the development, how that went. Another beautiful book. And just to kind of throw in like some of those more services, we have our student support services people in to talk about some of the things that they can do to help out with people who might need a little extra help in the online classes or otherwise.
That student support services program has really developed a lot in the last few years. It's that Kolbe has always been customizable for every student, and including those with a whole range of particular learning, as each child has particular learning needs, but some that folks might be hesitant to approach homeschooling because of. So, in the past few years, the Student Support Services program has really developed significantly, all sorts of things. So we like to highlight that when we can. We've been able to do that a few times now, and this particular episode is a good one to show off what all's going on there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it has been a great thing because, Colby, we're normally thinking, well, I'm always thinking of the super rigorous high school program, but with the assistance and the things they've been doing, what even things that might have seemed like, oh, maybe my child can't do all of these things and all of the math and science. It's like, well, maybe not, but they can do an awful lot of it and still get a lot of good things. And so there's both the modifications and yeah, just pacing sometimes are different and things. So it's really it's been a lot of fun to see them really kind of pour into that. So we wanted to highlight it at the conference that we could help.
And that's another fun group, another fun team. Kolbe has amazing folks working in all areas. That's a fun team of folks in the student support services. We've gotten to visit with several of them. Yeah. So we can go from the beginning to the end or start at any point and go from there.
Even if it just serves as a reminder or a visual reminder of, oh yeah, they had, or oh, I love Dr. Kudabak. I want to hear about, Lifecraft and what he's doing there and getting a little bit. Hopefully allows our listeners to easily do that, and it's going to stay up on our blog post, and I think in our resource section on our website. So even if you say, where did I put my PDF copies of these things, you can go back and get them later. It's okay.
And every podcast episode has a blog post where we post the show notes and all the links that we include in those. So this will be there as well. It'll be easily accessible, easily findable.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. This is one way we have organized our Kolbecast episodes to help folks find what is helpful to them. We also have, so on the Kolbe website, kolbe.org, there's a page for the podcast, kolbe.org/podcast, where we have applied tags to all our episodes. There's a lengthy list of various episode topics. So if you go to that particular page and scroll down a little bit, you can see the various filters and choose there and find other episodes of interest. The thing about that is it only shows sort of the last handful of them, really. And at this point, we have a lot of episodes that are tagged with all sorts of things. So that is one way to find some, but hopefully if you can find something from there and then go with related in the show notes and so forth. Or you can email us, podcast@kolbe.org, and say, what about this? And we will get back to you on what other episodes might suit what you're looking for. So another invitation to suggest topics for future episodes or conferences like we've put together here. We would love to hear from our listeners. What would be helpful? What have you enjoyed? What you're thinking about, what questions you have, folks you want to hear from, so forth.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that, well, if they're hearing about this through the podcast, then they're probably regular podcast listeners, so they know they can check the show notes, and we'll likely have a link to where they can get all of the conference things to go off. We've listed a lot of episodes, so I'm not sure that we'll try to relist all of those episodes in the show notes, but we can send them over to the page where they can get the flyers if they want.
Usually we list them out on notes. This time, for this particular occasion, we'll direct folks to the beautiful materials that Carol and everybody have been working on to send you to the various episodes we've referenced. Well, there have been a lot of folks working to help make this conference possible, and we are so grateful to everyone, especially to Maggie and Stephen for the idea of this, and for everyone on the team who has brought it to where it is today. And as we're wrapping up, there is one episode in particular where we did sort of a mini version of this, episode 221. We called it A Survey and a Starting Point, where we took the time at that point, 50 whatever episodes ago, to do a similar sort of which ones jump out and whatever. So there's that as well. So we have this conference, and then we have episode 221 that might help folks find what they need. Stephen, thanks again for your vision on this. appreciate so much the work you put into it and the guidance you've given to make it what it is. I really appreciate that. And it's been fun visiting with you about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe it's a little bit of work on my part, but it's just like all of the different people kind of jumping in to make it happen has been fun. So hopefully people enjoy it and then it's helpful for them. But I think I love it. So hopefully they love it as well.
I'm sure they will. And so again, in addition to wanting folks to send us ideas for future episodes, let us know what you think of the conference and how you experienced it. All right, Stephen, lots of good things to come in the next school year. We hope this is a help to people starting out the school year or whatever time they happen to play this episode at whatever point in the future. We'll see you again real soon for our next conversation.
Right. Talk to you soon, Bonnie.
Thanks.
Subscribe to the Kolbecast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@kolbe.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Ignatius of Loyola, holy saints and angels, pray for us. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam.